everybody. Welcome back to another Monday morning Jumpstart. Happy Monday. Ted, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. So Ted, we have a new bit of I want to call them a series. Last month we looked at, or the last series we looked at, self-discovery and really dug into that a lot. This month, again, I told everybody I want them. I'm very selfish about these. And what I want to bring to you. And, we asked, what do you need to know me? And I will tell everyone what's something you need to know me is that I get, I don't want to say bored, but if I feel stuck, if I'm not constantly growing, right? Which has its good and its bad. But what that brings is that I'm constantly trying to absorb new information. And the new thing that I have been on and learning about is yin and yang, okay? And so there's an element to it that I never understood before, and that is that everything, everyone, every whatever has light and dark, okay? And we, as a Western society, identify that as good and bad, but it's not. It's just what is. Yeah. Like life consists of all these things, right? So I wondered, Ted, if we can get into a bit of the dark, right? Things that we are scared of, things that we run from, things that we identify as bad, and dive into them so that you just see that they are just a part of life and a part of being, and hopefully get through them to move forward. How does that sound to you?
I love it. I'm giggling because it's interesting that you say the whole yin and yang thing and it's part of life or whatever. And I'm giggling because I can't tell you how many times in my own life and in my career and in my personal life, more specifically, that people think I'm like this doom and gloom guy because I want to talk about the bad stuff or the stuff that's in our way, because I have fully recognized it's part of life. It's not that I'm living in drudgery. Like, I said it on our last, I'm actually a pretty happy guy. I'm actually a very happy guy and joke around a lot, but I recognize the importance of talking about this stuff to move through, to actually create a little bit more space for this, the yin or the yang. I don't know which side is good or bad in the yin and yang.
Well, not as good or bad. Yeah, but the dark.
Right. But I love your opening of talking about the yin and yang. And then quite frankly, being intentional about putting a focus on this stuff. It's not doom and gloom.
Yes.
It's just, it's not doom and gloom. It's just, it is. So, yeah.
So I would say the first one, then the most general one that stops everybody in their tracks, and probably before even your track has begun, is fear, right? So how do you see fear show up? And everyone's like, how do I get over it? So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't know if we ever get over fear. And some people that have been working with me for a long time know that I'm kind of rooted in that belief. Like, some people, how do you get over grief? Maybe you don't, It could do one of those doom and gloom. You hear me, I reference my dad all the time. I lost him 24 years ago. I still cried like a little baby sometimes. Doesn't mean I'm living in misery. It just means. And so I don't think we're ever going to get rid of fear, but I do think there's some things that we can recognize about fear that will help us. And the first thing is that I think most fear is rooted in things that we just can't substantiate, right? There are absolute things like right now, true story, like my oldest son, Jackson, sleeps in bed with us far too much, right? But I'm good with it because there's one day that I'm going to miss him sleeping with me, right? Well, his bedroom is right at the top of the stairs. And he is rooted that somebody's going to come and get him because he's right at the top of the stairs. And that fear is not substantiated, right? So it's up to me as his father to somehow give him clarity around that he is actually safe. And I can't guarantee that in the house. But the reason I'm bringing that up is that what I would propose to anybody listening to this about fear is that I'd want you to go out there and see if your fear is actually substantiated. And there's this concept of all story versus reality. And I think most fear, a lot of fear, is based on stories, or this concept of possibility versus probability, right? It's possible that somebody could come into my front door, walk up the stairs, and do some god awful thing to my son, right? And that, even saying that out loud, kind of shakes me to my core. Yeah. That's possible. The probability of that happening is not very high. right? Particularly with me in the house with them, right? Like the probability. So, but again, I would want people out there to be thinking about that. Like, are you rooted in thinking too far in the future about what is possible, right? I could be crippled by, and it all depends on, Jade, I think it all depends on your life experience as well, right? Like I mentioned my dad, I could get crippled by the thought that I could get cancer. Crippled, right? I mean, in so many ways, and not being present because I'm worried about and there's a possibility that I'll get cancer. But the probability of it is not as high as I'm making it, right? And so I want people to start understanding that where I coach people, I say, I'm not trying to eradicate fear in you, but what I do want you to do is go out there and get clarity about what's real and what's not, and level set a little. And sometimes the only way to do that, as if I say to my son, all I want you to do this month is I want you to sleep in your bed 3 nights a week. And that this is real. This is something I'm doing. All I'm trying to do, Jade, is get him to see and wake up on those mornings and go, oh, I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's the same thing. You guys got to go out there and start thinking about in what areas of your life we're trying to build this writing business. I'm fearful that, and then go out there and jump and do it and find out what's real and what's not.
Well, it's funny you said that about your son in the 3 nights, because I have a belief that the opposite of fear is action. And so when the fear is, like you said, but you do it, but I'm scared, I have fear, but, and you just take that little action and it kind of like disproves it and it moves you away from it constantly. Like let's think about writers right now, right? Like I have a fear of reaching out. Well, just tap up, even if you don't send it right now, just tap up that first email. And that's an action towards that thing that you are so scared of. And I would bet that once you place action around it, that you'll move further from that fear. And that way you also have like a self-fulfilling prophecy of like, I've always had this fear but I was able to do those things, even despite the fear that existed there. Yes.
True. It's a big one. This one is big, this yin and yang thing that you brought up, but I do believe as a starting point, and I'm going to make the assumption that the next couple of Mondays, we're going to get into a couple more of things. It's kind of the things that stop us in our track, right?
Yes.
The stuff that we don't really want to talk about, and yet we should be talking about and find ways to overcome. And again, overcome, not eradicate.
Yes.
And there's a distinction there that I want everybody to grab, because nobody's walking around. I don't care anybody tells you they're walking around with no fear. I'm not buying it.
Yeah. And imagine what an amazing story that you have then as a writer. Like, I had all these fears and I did it despite of, and this is how I did it. And then you can share that with other people and help other people move through that fear, and just how hopefully there's somebody that has done what you want to do and can help you move through yours. So I love that.
Right.
Awesome. Okay, so for today, just think about what is stopping you. What are those fears? Are they possible or probable? What action can you take to get over them? And I think, Ted, next week we should get into a bit of being vulnerable. How does that sound?
Well, again, you're taking us to the deeper end of the pool. I love it.
Awesome. We'll see everyone then. Bye.
Have a good week.